frontier is defined as uncharted territory by land or ocean. Those who chart that territory tell a story. The past illustrates the blueprint for the present, how things are and how they've evolved. From land to water, we are challenged to border that new frontier, a frontier the outdoorsman knows like no other. Author Gary Lewis works his way along that edge of where discoveries, failures, and achievements have written the story of the sportsman.
Yes! Yes!
From state to state, continent to continent, the stories told create the foundation of the present, and they lay the framework for the future. Through the muzzle fire and on the stone are stories from the edge.
Water is the most important thing as far as Indians are concerned, 'cause that's life.
The past is written, the present is here, and this is Frontier Unlimited. Lay the map out on a table, and clues begin to appear. Vague hints of forgotten events. There is the Delore Place near Suplee. Ex-Hudson's Bay trapper Pete Delore was the first settler in the Ochiko Mountains. There is Beaver Creek. Imagine the myriad dams and the miles-long patches of willows that thrive here.
Looking at your stock there and your data, what's it say for 200 yards?
200 should be dead on.
Well, there's a ridge right here, and that big brushy creek we were looking up last night, that'll be down below us there.
North of here was Murders Creek, named in 1863 when two young women from an immigrant train found the remains of prospectors killed when the snakes dropped rocks on them from the rim rock above and finished the job with bows and arrows. Here at the bottom of Swamp Creek, Lewis's 21-year-old daughter Michaela, Guy Justin Ammett, and Lewis would try to find a buck or two. For 9 years, Michaela had horned her performance points, and together they had drawn these tags.
Justin spotted some deer on a little knob. They're way out there. They're 500-600 yards, maybe more. And there's a nice buck with them, we think. 5 deer. But probably not the buck we're looking for. The buck. Okay, yeah. Justin's got one spotted right here. Yeah.
He'll travel with anything.
Yep.
I have pictures of him in the middle of 3 bull elk rutting.
Oh, no kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. You should come out and hang out with us.
Yeah. We're gonna go back to the rig. Go all the way back around and come up over the top over here. There's that draw over there. He could be in that one. We'll never see it.
We're looking for a specific deer, Ammett informed them. We had been seeing him in the same places every year for the last 3 years. With only 2 days to hunt, Lewis and the crew would put Michaela first, but Lewis learned a long time ago not to chase a specific deer for too long.
We're gonna go through this gate, and we're gonna come into that basin we were in an hour ago. We're gonna look into that basin from this angle now.
It's always nice to get the sun on our face.
They heard about Ole and the other buck. Both bucks, Ammett guessed, were 6-year-olds. The second one was an old 4x3, not quite 28 inches wide, but he had seemed to live a charmed life.
You look just above this ridge, that downy juniper? Just above that.
It's not going to leave the property. Is it trail? Oh, yeah.
Well, we've got a gentleman that's going to be coming off the ridge here, and we're just going to go set up and watch and see if something comes through there. There should be some bucks in there anyway. Hopefully we can find out where they go to and make a plan on them.
For the next day and a half, they crept to the tops of hills and peered into canyons and looked into bedding and feeding areas. They saw forked horns and big 3-points and smaller bucks pushing each other around.
Haven't seen much of anything yet, but we saw a buck out here yesterday, so we just want to make sure that there's nothing that we missed yesterday or that might have circled back.
It's a pretty good buck. I can't tell if it's 4x4, but
In the draw. Yeah, they're pushing each other right now. Look at this, Michaela.
so I think we're gonna have to go this way. And then we gotta watch the wind.
We got the wind blowing like this. We think that buck is somewhere in here in this draw, that draw, or the next one over. So we got the wind right. We're gonna just start rolling and glassing, scrolling each time we look over the lip.
We'll back out of here and see if we could get around the other side.
What do you think they'll do? You think they'll come straight down? You think they'll?
I think they'll go right down the fence. We got 5 or 6 bucks over here. There's 2 4x3s, 1 smaller 3x3, 1 really wide buck that's crabby in the fronts. Got 1 tall buck, narrow, heavy horn. That's the one we want.
The crew glassed him with 4 other bucks atop a ridge. They saw him for a moment through the binoculars and made a stalk from the east side of the ridge.
Right up to the top, right there. We should be able to see him from there.
What they didn't know was that their 5 bucks they had spotted had another deer watching the back door. When they low-crawled over the top, he excited stage right and the other deer were on alert. Somehow the older buck gave them the slip. Four bucks paused, silhouetted on the skyline, and the deer Michaela would have taken had another buck behind it. Rather than risk killing 2 bucks with 1 shot, Michaela held off. They watched their dust trails across a hogback and saw them circle as if they were going to bed almost a mile away. Where the big one went was anyone's guess.
Let them settle down a little bit and then we'll come back later. See where that wide one ended up. Or...
In the afternoon, they left the truck in a cleft in the ridge and went up on foot from one overlook to the next. They ghosted, and then Justin spotted does and fawns.
When I see a bunch of does standing there, what's the buck doing? If there's one nearby. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to see if there's one laying down there.
This was not the buck they had been hunting, but it was the buck the sagebrush was ready to give up, and there were only a few hours left in her hunt. Huddled on the hilltop, Justin and Lewis called the shot for Michaela. The buck was in the bitter brush. Another deer moved in front of and behind it. With a steep decline, she should hold lower. The bullet went high, and a plume of dirt kicked up behind the buck. Deer bounded in every direction, but the buck went about 90 yards and locked up broadside. This time, Michaela's crosshairs were properly low for the 146-yard shot.
Nice shot.
Thank you. Oh, jeez. Thanks for helping me get set up again so fast.
Michaela and Justin walked down to find it, while Lewis watched from above.
Look at that, double eye guards.
Yeah.
Very nice, Michaela.
Thanks.
Very nice.
Thank you. Oh, right before the first shot, I was kind of nervous because the fawns were sort of weaving around his legs, and I was like, that's not the shot I want to take. And Justin was reminding me, like, we're gonna wait till it takes a few steps away. And that first shot, I didn't see where it went, but I saw him moving away.
The 21-year-old gutted her trophy, a 3-year-old forked horn with double eye guards, and then she and her mother dragged the buck to a spot where they could load it onto a vehicle. Back in the truck, they drove for almost an hour to the tops of the mountains where they could look into large meadows and glass the edges of groves and mountain mahogany. They hunted the big buck called Ole again in the morning, and this time did not see a single deer in the canyons he called home. It was as if the deer in the country had levitated to the tops of the hills.
Everywhere we go, there's been people who lived here, and it was Northern Paiutes and Shoshones here, and then it was the trappers and the pioneers, and they each leave their mark on the ground. If you look, you can find the signs that they were here. The sheep herders, the cattlemen, they've all left their mark here. And you have to ask yourself, how do I spot those tracks? Because they're here. There's their horses right there.
Looking down from these promontories, Lewis knew he was standing in the spot where Western Shoshone, aka Snakes, had built signal fires way back in '78. Here they would have hauled armloads of grass to the tops of the ridge and sparked the fire beneath it, covered with blankets.
Oh, sage-grouse. Yeah.
You guys look at sage-grouse. I'm gonna look at this big buck over here. Oh, it's a doe.
There's big buck. What? Right there. Big buck. Easy, easy.
Yeah, I'll take sticks.
Yeah, you want that buck. As soon as he stops, there you go. That's the big forking horn, the big wide one.
How about them sage-grouse?
Good shot. You hammered him.
It's over. It's over. You know, the adrenaline rush, all of a sudden, I'm just snapping pictures of sage-grouse, and then, Gary, there's a big buck. You're not supposed to do it to me like that. You're supposed to say, Gary, turn and look over there. And I told you, when you tell me to shoot, I'm not gonna
Yeah, you didn't
second guess. And that was going through my mind. I was thinking, all right, I haven't looked it over yet, but he told me to shoot. I'm shooting, because that's what I said I'd do. What I saw there, we'll find him right up on the crest. And there's a little rig up there that I'm kind of using for my marker.
If they had not stopped to look at the sage grouse, the buck would have stayed bedded, unseen in the sage.
Oh, man.
Glad you didn't wait.
Wow. Oh. Wow, he's wide, huh?
Yeah. Old deer.
Yeah.
He's gonna go. Look at that white face on him.
Yeah. Wow. Fantastic. Man, oh man.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna throw him up on the roof of that unit. Great buck to get out of the herd.
Yep. I love it. Wow. Every big mule deer I've ever killed has been around cattle. And the deer and the cows are there for the same reason. There's our cows. They're close enough. There's salts and minerals and water. And when I see cows, I don't see a competitor. And for a moment, I had the going away shot, but I wanted him to turn. You know, I always kind of flash back on those going away shots to what I want to do and what I'm gonna do.
You know, we stopped looking at them sage grouse. We sat there long enough. Finally, this guy got a little nervous and stands up, and I think it's the sage grouse that killed the deer.
Yeah, they had an assist.
Yeah.
Now the fun part. He's not gonna be light.
That's where the bullet went. Right into the heart. Came out this side. We should find it right up under the hide, I guess.
They guessed this one's age at about 6 years old and its weight at 250 pounds. Its antlers stretched the tape to 27 inches, at the greatest spread. There were 3 points on one side and 4 on the other. One of the oldest deer they had seen in 3 days of hunting. It was not the buck that they had been hunting, but it was one of the two they wanted, and it was the buck the sage grouse showed them. Lewis thought, who am I to argue with sage grouse? In a well-run camp, the outfitter assigns territory to the guides and their clients. With the hunting ground divided into more or less equal sections, everyone gets a chance to hunt without bumping into someone else. Now that the guy with the hat and his daughter had tagged out, the ground and the buck named Ole was up for grabs. Guide Alan Van Zandt and hunter Kyle Foley climbed to the tops of the hills and looked into the same canyons that they had been prospecting for the most of 3 days. 45 minutes before dark, Foley and Van Zandt spotted 3 bucks together, and one of which would have been a tremendous trophy, but one of the bucks was still in full velvet with 5 points on one side and 6 on the other. When they saw the buck, Ole was posed on the back of the truck. An inch of antler was broken from the tip.
Man,
Where's Justin?
Man.
6x4, isn't that awesome?
Where's Justin at?
It was on a
He
dead
rolled-
run when he
he
shot
rolled
it,
up
and it
big time.
went off a cliff like this, and we were following blood, and then all of a sudden it just turned into a skid trail. And
Good job. Yeah.
Kyle Foley, who hails from Milwaukee, Oregon, had just taken what will probably be the biggest buck of his life.
Oh my God!
Everybody's excited.
Yeah.
That's the way it
On
is,
the
man. That's the way it's supposed to be.
It's the new Oregon state record velvet mule deer rifle buck. He's gonna go 197.
You think he's that big?
Yeah. This is such a rare deer. In the history of Oregon, there's been 4 deer registered for the record book that have been in velvet. And there's only 2 ways that we know of you can end up with velvet deer this time of year, and that's either used to be the cowboys would rope them up and they'd cut them, which is obvious with this deer that didn't happen. So then it's a parasite that gets in the water when they're real young. They drink this water and it causes their genitals not to grow. So it doesn't produce the testosterone, which I'm not sure why. They can grow large antlers, but they don't want to shed the velvet at the normal time of year. They're not running with the does later in the year, and they're not into the breeding. But I mean, we've saved the scrotum on this deer. We're going to send it in and see what the vet says and the biologist. We want to know more about him. But do you realize what you did today?
Probably not yet, right?
It's not going to sink in for a while, right there.
We're doing a garage score of this buck.
Garage gross. Okay, your third mass is 4 4/8. Garage gross score. Plus
5 plus 4, so it's 179
Is your total?
is what I come up with for the total.
179.
179.
The fact that its antlers were still encased in velvet meant it was one of the rarest bucks a hunter could get.